After a massive win for the All Blacks last week up against Italy, they have got one remaining game before the quarterfinals. It is up against Uruguay, and in this video we will be trying our best to predict what the All Blacks will go with in their starting lineup and reserves for this upcoming exciting fixture. But with myself, it is Rugbyitch. Mate, All Blacks almost breaking that 100 in their last game up against the Italians. It is fair to say not many people anticipated a win for the ABs of that calibre. Do you think they're back on the right track, or do you think there's still more to be desired for making it to those quarterfinals?
I think it's definitely a good start to build off. I mean, that's a great game to build off of. So from an All Black perspective, I think it's brilliant that they actually got that scoreline, and it's something which they can definitely look back at and see when there's a lot of positives, that's for sure. But definitely they can fix a few things, and that's with every game. So I think it's something they can definitely build off. So from an All Black perspective, I'd be pretty pleased from what I saw.
Now in this game up against Uruguay, the big question is how many of the players who played up against the Italians get themselves another chance here. The ABs may look to go with almost a completely different looking side, but there will still be some similarities. We will start in the front row though. Who have you gone with that you think the ABs will select at 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, so I've gone with a complete switch here really in terms of what I believe could happen in this game from what we saw in the last game against the Italians. I've actually gone with Tamati Williams to start at number 1 here. At number 2, I've gone with the likes of Samisoni Takalaho at number 2. And number 3, I've gone with Tyrell Lomax. So it's a complete switch to what we saw from the last game. But I think all 3 of these names need a bit more game time. And I think this is probably the best opportunity for them, left really before it gets into the knockout stage. And I think, with Takalaho obviously not playing in that last game, I think he's a sure thing to play, at least get some minutes in this one. So it really just depends if he starts or comes off the bench. But I just feel for him against Uruguay, I think this is a good game for him to start. But Tamati Williams and Tyler Lomax, I think that's also needed as well. And Lomax, again, another player who is kind of getting back to his feet because, again, he was really the starting tight head with the likes of Ethan de Groot. So he wants to get some more minutes under his belt, and then that's when you can make that decision if you stick with Nabalala or if you go back to Tyler Lomax. So, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, because to Nepo Lalala's credit, he did play pretty well in their last game up against the Italians. For myself, I have made also those 3 switches that you have. Number 1, Tamati Williams. Number 2, Samisoni Taukeiaho. And number 3, Tyrell Lomax. I'm very confused at what's happening with Tamati Williams at the moment. They just don't seem to be giving him a huge amount of game time. I don't think he's injured, but I think he's a really handy player to have. And to be honest, if he plays well in this game, they may even consider picking him ahead of Ethan de Groot when it comes to those playoff games, seeing as de Groot's been just that little bit out of form. But looking through at the locks now, I've gone with a lot of experience across these 2 positions. Number 4, Brodie Retallick. Number 5, Scott Barrett. I believe that there will be some similarities to what we saw in that game up against the Italians. I'd like to see that consistency in the locking duo throughout these last couple games. So Brodie Retallick, big man at 4. Barrett putting in a massive shift up against the Italians. So that's why I've stuck with those 2.
No, I like it a lot. Again, I've only actually made 1 change compared to you in this position. I have also gone with the likes of Brodie Retallick number 4, but I actually have chosen to go with a bit more experience than Scott Barrett, and I'm going with the likes of Sam Whitelock here. So, he fits in at number 5, and I just think that pairing is solid. And again, this would come out to be his 150th game for the All Blacks. So, of course, he did he officially broke the record of being the most capped All Black of all time. I think in the game, if I'm not mistaken, maybe that's what it was. But no matter what, he's going to go to 150. So that's a huge milestone either way. So, I think that's a good pairing overall.
Huge amount of experience across those 2 positions for the ABs, almost more than some people's maybe entire backline for this matchup, depending on the changes that could be made. Not for myself, though. I've got a bit more experience lurking amongst the backs for myself, but now looking at the loose forward trio. This is where we may see a couple changes being made, but for yourself, have you decided to stick with Shannon Frizzell as that number 6? Have you stuck with Ardie Savia? Man of the match performance up against the Italians. Does he get more minutes for the quarterfinals?
Yeah, I've had to make some bold calls here because in my mind, I'm also thinking, okay, you got to rest a few players in time for that Irish game, which will most likely be the Irish. So it's one of those where, you got to rest a few players. I think this is a key area of a team where they have the ability to kind of use a bit of their depth and cover that. So for that reason alone, I have actually decided to stick with Shannon Frizzell, number 6. I've swapped Papa Lee out, brought brought in, Sam Kane. He needs to start. So hopefully he can start this full game. Well, maybe play the full game. I don't know. But if he can start, that's the main thing, really, which is needed of him. But for number 8, I've decided to take out Artis Sevilla and rest him for this game. So he's not even a part of my squad for my whole lineup. So that could be a bold call. But I've decided to go with Luke Jacobson ahead of him there. You obviously can play at 8. So, that's my loose forward trio for this game.
Okay, bold call without Savia, but something that the ABs could definitely look at doing as they head towards those quarterfinal games. For myself, very similar. I've gone Shannon Frizzell at number 6, just with the fact that he's just come back from injury. They'll want as many minutes under his belt as they can before heading into their next contest. Number 7, gone back to Sam Kane. I don't know where he's at the moment in terms of that injury recovery. We did see him come off the bench in the last fixture, but I think he'll want more minutes just to really help him as well mentally. He'll want to be out there, getting involved. He only had a couple touches of the ball, got an assist in the last game up against the Italians as well.
Exactly.
So we'll be rearing to go. For this match, number 8, I did stick with Artis Savia. I've decided to keep him in there mainly because I feel like at the moment he's found his rhythm, and I don't want to risk breaking that rhythm with a week off. I think he'll want to be continuing to play as many minutes as he can. And up against Uruguay, they may look to only give him half the game just to start him off, get him firing, and then take him off ready to go for the quarters. But now the 9-10 combo. I have gone back to what they used in the game up against Namibia. Cam Roygaard as the starting number 9, and Damien McKenzie will be my starting fly half. 2 men that came off the bench in the game up against the Italians and actually both did very well in their respective jobs. So giving them another chance here this time to start.
I actually didn't think of that combination for this game, actually, but I like it a lot because, again, we've talked about this before, but that could be the future combination for the All Blacks at this Rugby World Cup. So I can see the reason why you maybe go with that. But for this one in particular, again, I'm more in the mindset where for the number 9, I feel like he's not going to get as many minutes when it comes towards the knockout stages. So I felt you got to use him now. Give it to him now at least. So I've gone with Finlay Christie to start this one. I just think I'm not sure if he's started a game so far in this World Cup. So this would be the one where if there's any of them that happen, it's definitely this one because again, Morgott's already started one. Aaron Smith has already covered a few, and this also allows Aaron Smith to rest. So I've gone with Finlay Christie to start, and then alongside him, I've gone with Richard Mwanga. So I actually have decided to stick with Mwanga and instead of going for McKenzie. But either player actually would be fine with me. But just Mwanga, Finlay Christie, I like that combination a lot.
Also very successful off the kicking tee last week. Richie Mwanga nailing the kicks that he needed to. Now we move on to the centre combo. 12 and 13. Last week we saw what we had seen for the ABs in the past of Jordie Barrett, Rieko Ioane. Jordie Barrett having a huge difference in the way that All Blacks backline was functioning. Have you stuck with that same combo this week, or have you made 1 or 2 switches?
I've made 1 or 2 switches. Here. And again, it's kind of expected because, again, it's in the same mind of thinking where I want to rest a few players. And I've not decided to go with Jordie in the starting lineup here. And instead of him, I've gone with David Havili to cover that 12 position. And I've gone with Anton Brown as the 13. So a entirely different new pairing in terms of center combination, but one of them that can definitely work against this Uruguay side.
Okay, so for myself, I've got 2 differences to yourself.
Ooh, okay, I like it.
I've gone number 12, Jordie Barrett, number 13, Rieko Ioane. I think that since we've only seen that combo being used together for 1 game, they'll want to have it a little bit more consistent before they get to that quarterfinal. So Jordie Barrett, I felt he played very well in that game up against the Italians. Rieko Ioane, out of every player on the field, I think a lot of people would agree was probably the player who played, sadly, the worst. So hopefully him and Barrett together in that midfield combo. I know, he's your favourite player in that backline as well. And
there's Mark Talia. He's getting up the ranks in terms of he may be coming close to edging Redco, but no, Redco's always going to be my guy. But I do agree with you. He didn't have his best game for sure. So
So I've decided to keep him out there in the starting lineup, hoping that chemistry comes back between Barrett and Rieko. Maybe one of them gets taken off close to halftime, like I mentioned about Artis Savia, because they have got some cover off the bench as well. But now looking through at the back 3. For myself, number 11, I have gone with Lester Fainanuku as that starting 11. Now, he was actually going to be a very decent option for my number 13. I was heavily considering it, but I decided against it in the end. Put him out there on the left wing. Number 14, I've gone with Caleb Clark. Now, I should mention this is not what I would do. This is what I think the All Blacks will do. They played him on the right wing for that game up against Namibia.
I understand.
They'll throw him out there again just for fun. And then number 15, I've gone with what I believe they will do, and that is still playing Beauden Barrett at number 15 for this game. I don't see them switching Will Jordan to 15 or anything along those lines. I think there's only really 2 15 options for this contest, Beauden Barrett, Damian McKenzie, but I believe that Barrett will be that starting number 15.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more of you there. And again, I've also gone the likes of Lessa Faranku at the number 11 spot. I haven't gone with Caleb Clark at number 14. I was considering it, but I've decided to stick with Will Jordan there. Hoping to get a few more tries in this contest. But for the number 15, I actually have gone with Damian McKenzie here ahead of Beauden Barrett. So, a few changes there, but overall, pretty pleased with it.
I guess the benefit the ABs have at the moment is there are a few players that are starting to find some quite nice form in that back line. Whether you look at Aaron Smith or Cam Roigard, the 2 9s, that seem like the most viable options going forward. McKenzie and Moonga, I feel like both of those two are playing pretty good rugby at the moment. Beauden Barrett's still finding his feet, I would say. Like, he's having some good moments, but then there's also moments where you go, oh, Bodie, what have you done that for? And up against the likes of Namibia, as well as the Italians, it was okay. But if it's in one of those big, important games and people go, oh, Bodie, you've done it again, and the opposition get themselves those points, then that's going to hurt the ABs drastically. But looking through at the benches, this is where the impact was made as well in that game up against the Italians. Probably the best bench performance we have seen from the All Blacks throughout this Rugby World Cup. Bit of a change of scenery for yourself, Tim, but who have you got covered off your bench as 16, 17 and 18?
Yeah, so coming off my bench, I've decided to go with the likes of Opportuna Fassi and Fletcher Newell as my replacement props. But in terms of the hooker, I've actually decided to stick with Dane Coles in terms of that hooker spot, because I could have gone with the likes of, Cody Taylor here, but again, he's just another player I decided to rest going into this game. So, that's my replacement front row for this game.
Alrighty, for myself, I have gone with Cody Taylor as the number 16, Ofa Tuangafasi as 17, and Nepalulala as my number 18. The reasoning behind that is because I feel like they want to build up that little bit of consistency with those 3 individuals, which could easily be 3 players that play in those quarterfinals, etc. But now moving on to the rest of the forwards, it is going to be Sam Whitelock as my number 19 here, and then I have gone with Ethan Blackadder as the number 20, a man who we haven't seen have any minutes throughout this Rugby World Cup competition, but hopefully does get himself a bit of a chance here.
Yeah, no, in terms of my locking pairings as well, because I've again gone with a 5-3 split here. So I've gone with the likes of, Tupo Valai as the number 19 option. In terms of my 20, I've gone with the likes of Dalton Papali. And I could have gone with a few other players, but I just think those 2 are just certified to play. So those are the 2 options there.
Alrighty, so now we move on to the last 3 positions for the ABs, the replacement backs. Who have you gone with in those 3 spots?
Yeah, I've gone with the likes of Cam Roigard to come off the bench. So again, I've decided to rest Aaron Smith for this game. But for number 22, I didn't want to put him here, but it really just makes logical sense to put him here. It's Jordy Barrett, because he can cover a lot of positions. And I do want to rest Beauden Barrett for this game, because I think he's played every single game. So it makes sense to give him at least 1 rest before going into that quarterfinal. So he's coming off the bench as my number 22 option. And then for number 23, I have to include him somewhere, and it's Caleb Clark, because I feel like he's just someone who I think this is the right game for him overall. So I can see him coming off the bench, or at least starting this game. So that's my bench and summing up for there.
Alrighty, so it is going to be Finlay Christie, who I go with as my number 21. Hopefully he is going to have a good game, because he is probably the out of form halfback out of the 3, which will of course want to make an impact here. Number 22, Richie Moonga. I feel like that is a good combo, having McKenzie and Moonga as that starting 10 and the replacement 10. And then David Havili will be my number 23 as the last man in my All Blacks side. But this game, it is going to be a very entertaining one. The All Blacks taking on Uruguay, a passionate side. They want to be able to cause yet again another upset like they did up against the Fijians in 2019, which is why I believe the All Blacks will go with a relatively strong side in this game and still have a bit of consistency across the board, but hopefully they have a decent game when they do go head-to-head. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Do let us know what you believe the selectors will be going with in this All Blacks game. We actually had a comment on the last one that said that we were thinking too similar to the coaches, which I feel like is kind of praise for these lineup predictions, seeing as that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get in the mind of Ian Foster and that is very hard to do. You just got to get straight past all the Barretts that you can see. But once you get through there, we get to that lineup the ABs will be going with in this matchup. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you all for the next one.
Have you already done your whole locks?
Yeah, I've done one. Yeah.
I didn't hear anything you said, by the way, in terms of your locks and all that.